Welcome to the discussion of Part 4, Chapter 1. It's a really interesting chapter where Svidrigailov kind of comes out of nowhere. We've almost forgotten about him at this point, with the exception of being reminded recently that his wife, Marfa Petrovna, has died. And there's some intimation that he possibly had something to do with it. And so he's there in Raskolnikov's room, and Raskolnikov feels like it's very impertinent. Like, you made my sister's life a living hell, and now you're here. Like, what do you want? Like, why do you even expect me to be receiving you? And Zvidrigailov is like, well, I want to talk to you about something important. And Raskolnikov's like, what do you want? And he's like, I heard your wife died, and it sounds like, he's saying, like, kind of sounds like you had something to do with it. And he's like, no, that I was cleared. The medical inquest cleared me. It was just, of course, it was just this natural phenomenon of her heart giving out because she had a bottle of wine. She had too much wine and dinner and then took a bath too soon. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it sounds a little far fetched. Maybe back then that was like a normal way to die, is you had a bath too soon after eating dinner. Um, and he's like, all I did was take a switch and hit her twice with it, and it didn't even leave a mark. And he's like, that was only like the second or third time that I'd ever hit her in our 7-year marriage. He's like, we never argued. We always got along really well. And you don't even know our history. He's like, 8 years ago, I ran wild in Petersburg, and I was a card shark, and I, ran with a wild crowd, and I got myself really into debt. He got himself into like 70 plus $1,000 worth of debt, and he was in a debtor's prison. And Marfa Petrovna, who was 5 years older than him, but really fancied him because he's apparently quite attractive, settled the debt for half the amount, paid it, and said, well, now you owe me. Like, you can't leave. Like, now, in return for this, you're going to marry me. You're going to come to the country. We're going to have a family, and you're going to be my husband. And he agreed to that, but that was probably not a fun life for him after the life that he led. But he hung around because he had this outstanding debt. And Raskolnikov's like, well, maybe you killed her to get rid of the debt. And he's like, no, because she had already given me the IOU. So he had an IOU for her. Like, she had one against him. But he said that on his name day, which is it's like a church holiday when your patron saint is like celebrated. He said that after 7 years on his name day that she gave it to him. So he didn't owe her. He didn't have to stick around anymore. He could have left easily. And he's like, and why do you think I'm such a monster? Because I fell in love with your sister. Because he's like, some other people might say that I was the victim, like a victim in this situation. Raskolnikov's like, and he's just like, no, I'm just a man. I just fell in love with her because I really have strong feelings for your sister. And Raskolnikov's like, why are you here? And he starts talking about, do you believe in ghosts? And Raskolnikov's like, no, do you? It's like a very odd conversation. Raskolnikov's like, he keeps trying to like get to the point, and Svidrigailov keeps going off on these tangents. It's almost like he's I don't know. Sometimes it just seems like he just wants somebody to talk to and to tell these things to. It's a very interesting conversation because Raskolnikov's like, why is this guy telling me all this stuff about his wife? And so Svidrigailov says, I've seen my wife 3 times since she died. She keeps coming to me. And Raskolnikov's like, well, what does she say? And he's like, she just says like the most casual things. Like, she came to me. It's like the day of the funeral. It's exhausting. The funeral, the wake, the lunch. And he's like, I was finally alone. It was at the end of the day, and I was just sitting down and lighting a cigar. And she came into the room, and she said, you need to wind the clock. And he said, I've wound the clock every week for those 7 years, and I always remembered. And if I ever forgot, she would come and remind me. And she came that day and reminded me because I'd forgotten because of everything that had gone on that day. And she's come to see him other times since. And he's like, "Do you believe in the afterlife?" And Raskolnikov's like, "No, I don't," which is an interesting answer. This questioning about the afterlife and what do you believe in, because it reminds me very much of the questioning of Porfiry Petrovich, where he questioned him, like, "Do you believe in God? Do you believe in the story of Lazarus?" And that time when Porfiry was asking him that line of questioning, and it was like many questions, and Raskolnikov was saying, "I do, I do." That line of questioning made me think of, if you're Catholic, you will know this, but in the Catholic Church and probably in the Orthodox Church, and Russian Orthodox would have been the religion of the time, that there is a time on Easter Sunday where you repeat your baptismal promises. So when you're baptized as a baby, the priest or whoever's baptizing you says a series of, "Do you renounce Satan?" And your godparents step in at that time and say, "I do," like they're saying it on your behalf. But as you get older and you go to church every Easter Sunday, you renew your baptismal promises where you say that you do renounce Satan, you do believe um, in all the tenets of the church. And that line of questioning where he keeps saying, "I do, I do, I do," felt very much like a renewal of his beliefs. But now here, Svidrigailov is asking him kind of a series of questions that's very similar, and he keeps saying, "I don't, I don't, I don't." And so I just think that's very interesting because it's just like a chapter or two later. And I don't know if he seems to be saying it more because he doesn't want to be in any type of agreement with Svidrigailov, is kind of how I'm taking it, or he's just super irritated. But Svidrigailov is talking a little bit about the spiritual realm and saying, when we're young and we're living and we're firmly in this world, that we don't see the spiritual realm, we don't see ghosts or spirits or anything, because we're living our life. He's like, but the closer we get towards death, the more we are getting closer to that spiritual realm. And he's like, and then we start to see these things, and then we get so close that when we die, just stepping into it feels natural, because we've had this transition where we've been kind of getting super close to it, and we've been able to see it and be in contact with it, which is interesting because Svidrigailov is not necessarily close to death. So but this is what he's saying. This is how he's rationalizing it, that he believes that it's there. It's just that normally you can't see it, and that his wife is coming to him. And he tells Raskolnikov, finally, he starts to get to the point, and he tells Raskolnikov that he's going on a journey and he wants to kind of set some things straight before he does this. And he wants to give Dounia um, 10,000 rubles, which is a lot of money. And he says specifically that his main aim in coming to Petersburg was to stop the marriage of her and Luzin. He knows Luzin, and he says that this is the reason why he got in a fight with Marfa Petrovna, why he took the switch and hit her with it, was because of her interference in getting Luzin to, introduced to Dounia. And so he's coming to Petersburg to hopefully stop this marriage, because he says that he suspects, as he is sure that Raskolnikov also is unhappy about the marriage, that the only reason why Dounia is doing this is because she needs to secure herself and her family financially. And he's like, this would give her the ability to be able to say no, to comfortably walk away. And he's like, don't think that I have any designs on on trying to marry her. He's like, actually, some people are trying to arrange a marriage. And he's like, you've been in Petersburg for 3 days and you're already got an arranged marriage. And he's like, well, friends here in town. And he's like, I admit that when I first left only 3 days ago, that he had, thought of trying to get Dounia to marry him instead of Luzin. But then suddenly within the past 2 days, apparently he's saying that he's, isn't going to do that. He's not even in love with her anymore. He wonders if he was ever in love with her, and now he's talking about possibly having an arranged marriage. So it's a bit like, okay. And he's like, will you arrange for her to take this money? And Raskolnikov's like, absolutely not. And he's like, don't, this could really be what she needs. This is what she needs. So he's like, if you don't, he's like, will you tell her about this money? And Raskolnikov's like, no. And he's like, well, I have to tell you, if you won't tell her that I'm offering this money, then I have no choice but to go see her myself. Like, he's saying, I'm trying to do the right thing, the respectable thing. And he's like, you think that this is, me trying to play an angle, but I'm not. He's like, trust me, I'm not trying to play an angle. He's like, I'm not even trying to see her. He's like, I'm just trying to do something nice so that her memory of me isn't just of this guy who wrecked her life at a time in her life, but that there was also something good. Like, he's trying to even out the bad that he did by doing something equally as amazing for her that would really help, make her life better. He made her life living hell at one point. Now he's going to make her life dramatically better by giving her this money. This is what he states is his reason for giving it to her. And he's like, I'm coming to you to try and give it to her through you out of respect, her being, which is the opposite of what Luzin did, right? Luzin didn't have the respect for Raskolnikov to come and deal with him first as he should have. But Svidrigailov, that's what he's doing. And he's like, but if you're going to refuse to present this offer to her, then I'm going to have no choice but to see her myself, because I want to make sure that she knows that this is on the table, because I want to stop the marriage of her to Luzin. And Raskolnikov doesn't say anything. And he's like, oh, and one more thing. My wife did leave 3,000 rubles to her as well in her will. She did it right before she died. And Raskolnikov is like, okay. And he's like, he asked him this question about, do you believe in the afterlife? And he's like, sometimes, and he says this really weird thing, Svidrigailov does, which I thought was odd. He's like, sometimes I like to think it's like this small bathhouse room with spiders in the corner, and that's the only place where you go. And this is very troubling to Raskolnikov. He's like, can't you think of a better afterlife than that? And Svidrigailov says, well, if I had to choose what it would be, that's what I would choose. Which is, again, a little troubling. And it's like, I almost like that his wife died in a bathtub and like in a bathhouse. That's what he says. Like, I don't know. He says that he took this switch and he hit her twice, and that she liked being insulted. Like, that gave her something to talk about. That gave her, because she had just been sitting bored at home. She told everybody about Dounia's letter and she didn't have anything else to do. So the fact that, he gave her a couple of slaps with this switch that didn't even leave a mark, that gave her like some purpose, and now she can go to town and tell everybody about it or whatever. She goes to town and she goes to a bathhouse and she dies in the bathtub. So it's like, why does he want his afterlife? Why does he see his just afterlife as being like a room that sounds like maybe a room that she died in? It's like, it makes you wonder, like, does he just feel bad that they had this interaction? He doesn't seem to feel guilty about, oh, it's just a switch, I just hit her a couple times. It just kind of makes me wonder, like, did he really kill her in that bathroom? And that's why he, feels like that's all he deserves. It's very odd that he would say that. Raskolnikov is really troubled. Like, can't you think of any better afterlife? Like, that's not great. And so anyways, it just ends with, with the end of that conversation. So we'll have to see if Raskolnikov makes this offer known to Dounia, or what happens with Svidrigailov. So stay tuned. Meet me in chapter 4 or part 4, chapter 2. And we'll find out what happens next.